You know, a few days ago I was thinking, with Ward coming back to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., wouldn't it be interesting if he ends up saving everyone? Still think that could be the case. We enter the totalitarian state inside the framework, ruled by Hydra. It's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Season 4, Episode 16. What if? Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to the return of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So, yes, spoilers are ahead. This is your warning. All right, really excited. We are back in the third pod of Season 4, Agents of Hydra. And oh, it is a scary, scary place inside the framework. Again, a totalitarian state ruled with an iron fist of Hydra. And, I love the way that they have set all of this up. Because when we originally, introduced to the framework, not at the beginning of the season, the small little work area Fitz was developing, but the actual Ada-created framework, it was designed to sort of be a place where people could be happy. May specifically could be happy, a place where she would be able to calm and live out her life in sort of a peaceful fashion. And they do that by trying to fix her biggest regret, which was that situation in Bahrain where she had to go and kill the inhuman child. And from doing that, she cascaded into a bit of depression. It cost her marriage with Andrew. It removed her from the field all the way up until Phil Coulson grabbed her and started the agents that we know and love. Well, okay, technically it was Fury getting May to get Coulson to hire her and bring her back. Convoluted story, yes, but that was the way that things planned out. Changing that, though, really does have a huge impact in history. Now, of course, the Bahrain incident happened several years before Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. started up. And we could say I've seen timelines that place it right around 2008. That's right around the time of the first Iron Man. So if we can imagine if she changes that and then brings the inhuman child back, and then, of course, that creates an even larger frightening situation. Basically, take Bahrain and boost it up to 11, that would be what they refer to as the Cambridge incident, where she takes over and creates a whole bunch of deaths, and that's where Hydra steps up. Now, if we assume that is around 2008, that would be right around the time of Iron Man, where Tony Stark creates the Iron Man suit. So does this stop Iron Man from being born? Is he thus killed or not recovered? Or even if he creates the Iron Man suit, right afterwards when Hydra steps forward, do they sort of nix him in the bud? Because after that we have, Iron Man 2, that never happens. The Incredible Hulk, which is also around that time. Does Hydra stop the original experiment that started Hulk? Do they just take him out? You can't really take out Hulk, but maybe find some way to cordon him off. Those might be two ifs, but definitely Thor coming back, that probably didn't happen because there was no S.H.I.E.L.D. to sort of watch out for him. It was instead Hydra, which probably took out the God of Thunder before he was able to become worthy again. And thus Loki is now the favored son of Asgard. Also, Captain America's probably never found and thawed out. Or if he is found, he's probably killed immediately or brainwashed or something. So basically, all of those early stage events now probably never happened. And especially with Loki not being banished from Asgard, then Thanos doesn't have his lackey to come back to Earth to try and get the Tesseract. And in fact, the Tesseract's still locked up. So that can change the whole Avengers. So everything that has happened is now all up in the air, is all gone. So from establishing that type of world and bringing Hydra in early like that, we nix all of those adventures, and now we do have this state run by Hydra discovering Inhumans, and now we have kind of their repetition of, say, the Nazi Germany back in the 30s, where instead of the Jews and and those people as being the focus of the ire of society, we now have the Inhumans as that focus, justifying their rule and cowing everyone down and falling into line. So it is a really interesting way of setting up the world, doing it in a time frame that nixes all of the other MCU events, potentially, certainly most of them, and then establishing this world into which everybody else steps in, and where Jemma and Daisy, or S.H.I.E.L.D. now, frightfully awaken. Now, I think it could be easily postulated as, if this is created in order for May to have a safe, wonderful place to live out her life, why does Hydra get involved? Why does it go evil? Remember, the framework was created by the Darkhold. So evil is kind of in its initial programming. Creation of this totalitarian state does seem to fall right in line with the obsession and the darkness that envelops the Darkhold. So it sort of makes sense why this would sort of change from a nice, peaceful place into something very dark and scary. And certainly it is for Jemma and Daisy. Daisy, again, S.H.I.E.L.D. now, because her whole Inhuman thing hasn't happened, waking up next to Ward. And the episode itself, I think, was really straightforward in establishing all of the storylines and the characters and such like that. There's not a whole lot in that sense to really dive into specifically. So I just want to kind of look at and catch up with each character here. Ward, for instance, kind of interesting because we haven't seen, and I'm hoping, we did get a nice, in memory for Mr. Bill Paxton, who we miss greatly. Would love to have seen him come back into here. But John Garrett was still a figure in Grant's life before all of these events. So not really sure what happened. We probably will get some note of him later on at some point in the series. I certainly hope that we do. Maybe he's just kicking back on a beach and retired somewhere. That would be a wonderful thing for Garrett. But whatever darkness might have been instilled inside of Ward seems to have been played out. Because now that Hydra is at the forefront, he doesn't have to be in disguise. He doesn't have to be that sort of double agent, though that does seem to be ingrained in his DNA, as Jemma refers to it, since he does end up joining the Resistance, fighting against Hydra, instead of being with Hydra and fighting against S.H.I.E.L.D. But I think the real interesting point with that is he joins the Resistance because of S.H.I.E.L.D. When he identifies S.H.I.E.L.D. as an Inhuman, that is his motivation to join the Resistance. So we really get a very different Ward in this world. And that's why I'm saying I think at the end is for sort of a large arc of redemption. I think Ward's going to be the one that ends up kind of playing whatever final move in order to help get everyone out. Now May, on the other hand, has definitely gone super dark. I mean, if she was wounded by what happened in Bahrain, the Cambridge incident must have completely destroyed her, because she's got to come out of this, I saved the girl. I mean, we saw that one scene where we reflected back, Andrew, I saved her, I brought her back, and how that joy must have just turned to sour dust in her mouth when whatever horribleness of the Cambridge incident occurred. She is going to blame herself for that, and that is why she is so dedicated to Hydra in this, fighting the Inhumans, stopping from whatever it is that happened from happening again. And this has, like I said, really turned May super dark. There is no happy, there is no joy, there is no lighter side to her. She is dedicated, she doesn't care about anyone else. And that's going to be a really difficult person to try and access and sort of get to. I think she's going to be like the really big antagonist for quite some part of this pod. Fitz, also dark and evil. What pushed him that way? Good couple of questions that were thrown out. As S.H.I.E.L.D. suggests, it's because Jemma isn't with him, that she might have been the force to help him guide through this darkness and sort of balance things out. We do know that he is aware of his father and probably is working with him. I think we're going to meet his father at some point in the pod, because he does quote his father, something that he has never ever done as far as I can remember. So I'm assuming there's going to be some connection, and that might be part of what Radcliffe changed in his life in some ways, keeping his father involved in his life. But whatever incident occurred at the S.H.I.E.L.D. training academy where they wiped out, I'm assuming this is probably around the time where Hydra stepped forward and started pushing S.H.I.E.L.D. off to the side and getting rid of any of those remnants that still existed in some sort of positive fashion. And that's what happened to Jemma and everyone else. The body that was in the grave with Jemma was certainly well decayed and gone, so that was quite an amount of time that has passed since then. So I'm assuming that was probably pretty early. God, Jemma pulling herself out of that dirt. Oh God, being buried alive is a personal fear of mine, so digging oneself out of the grave. We thought that she might have to dig herself out of the grave. It just wasn't the one in England with the tombstone. It was the hidden mass grave over at the S.H.I.E.L.D. Academy. But because of all of that, now we have Fitz shaped much like May was into this evil, ruthless, focused on rooting out the darkness of Inhumans. I'm kind of curious what additional activities has happened, events have happened in his past. But not having Jemma there certainly allowed that to cascade out. And the fact that he looks like sleeping with Madam Hydra, the Ada inside the framework there, that's probably not going to help. That's certainly going to twist everything around. So, Ian DeCastecker, I gotta say, man, you are incredible. From the lighthearted Fitz that we are used to seeing to this dark, basically, Nazi doctor that we have going on. That is quite a jump. He plays it all so convincingly and so intensely, and I am really curious to see where he's going to go. I think a really interesting point there, though, is Jemma was in his life. I know that that's sort of the question, but I think that is why Madam Hydra did not show him Jemma's picture. Because if he sees that Jemma is alive, that might change everything. And in fact, we'll probably find out that they blamed whatever happened for the contamination inside of S.H.I.E.L.D. Academy probably on humans, and that's Inhumans, and that's probably going to be what pushed Fitz to become the way that he is now. Seeing Jemma might really switch that around. And last, we have our guy, Phil Coulson, living a peaceful life as a teacher. Well, not that peaceful. Certainly teaching a very dark history, a very dark viewpoint to the next generation, and apparently completely willing to turn said young minds right over to Hydra at any point. So he's in a very dark place, but he's not completely out of it. When Jemma sort of brings up all of those discussions, especially Tahiti. I love that they included Tahiti. They had the little dancing girl, right? The little hula girl. That was perfect. Because we would think if there is any memory that is going to stick out in Phil Coulson as much as anything, it's going to be Tahiti and it being a magical place. Which was great when we did see him going through his little file. And you can see the little pictures. He's got the picture of the Corvette there in the background and all of these other little things that are sort of reminding him. You could see he had these images in his mind and he's trying to find things to sort of reinforce it. Of course, the big postcard of Tahiti that we have seen oh so many times. And the fact that he has written "It's a Magical Place" over and over and over again, kind of like when you used to get in trouble at school and you had to write standards. Write this sentence over and over again. That's exactly what he has done. Kind of funny him being a teacher doing it that way. But that is definitely the sign that things have stood out, that he knows on some level that this reality, there is something wrong with it. And so it brought very touching, that last scene when Skye finally comes up to Coulson, is like, you have to remember me. We're family. That last shot where he's just, Daisy? It's like, that's what we want to see. But his reaction to Daisy, to Skye there, I'm not sure at this stage if that is something that he actually remembered or if it's something referring back to his file. Perhaps he's got some note there that there's a Daisy that equals family or some sort of connection. So not entirely sure yet if this is him waking up from this false narrative that's been in his brain, or just kind of a more subtle recognition like, hey, I know something like this and I wrote this down. I don't remember you, but there is a familiarity with it. I think we might be moving more in that direction. I think it's going to take time for people to sort of break out of their shells, their false constructed personas, before they really realize what in fact is going on and who they are. And a few little fun points in there. Of course, the Triskelion still standing, because the whole Captain America Winter Soldier thing never happened. So the Triskelion still standing. Really, really cool to see, and definitely an imposing first statement of how different this world is and how long that it has been different from the real world, you know, timeline wise and such. So that was really cool to see. Also, of course, same reference back, Alexander Pierce High School, where Coulson is teaching. It seems appropriate that you would name him after the head of S.H.I.E.L.D. / Hydra, of course probably in charge as Hydra stepped out of the shadows back in right after the Cambridge incident. So I thought those were nice little references right there. The other not so subtle message that sort of permeates throughout this, and I think is going to be hit upon several times throughout this arc, is the idea of truth versus propaganda. It's something that Coulson talks about in his classroom, especially when the young student brings up, weren't they Nazis? And no, this is the type of thing we have to fight against. Remember, this is a world that has no smartphones now. There are no independent newspapers. Everything is state-run. So all information is being controlled because you need ID to go anywhere, and you can be asked for ID at any point. It instills fear in the populace, and it instills compliance within the populace. So the way that they are framing this world is kind of like, again, it's almost like the Nazi Germany up until now, where everything is controlled, everything is regulated, and everyone is put in a fearful state. You find a large enemy, in this case the Inhumans, you blame everything on them, and of course the Cambridge incident certainly gave them the reasons to do that, and make them the enemy, and then say everything you are doing is for the safety of everyone else. That's totalitarian state 101 right there, and I think is a really interesting thing to see in this sort of time of that being brought up, and what kind of world that would be like to live in. Oh, and one last just little point here. I love the new poster. It's cool. I like the whole Hydra background, but looks a little similar to the Ghost Rider poster, doesn't it? It's like literally everyone in the exact same position, and they've just changed the background. I was a little disappointed in that. I mean, the LMD poster is cool. It's a whole different setup. I'm sorry about light reflecting here. You're catching that. There's a whole different setup going on here. I thought that was really cool. Anyway, I like the poster. I just wish they had done a little bit more with it. Small, personal little statement. All right, so I think that's, like I said, going to wrap things up. Not a whole lot of big movements today. It was really just establishing the world and sort of what everyone is going to be up against. If you did enjoy this review, please go ahead and hit that like button. Thoughts, ideas, comments, where do you think that this pod is going to go? Where do you think the arc is going to be? And are you excited about Ward coming back as kind of a good guy? Or do you just think that he needs to stay in his evil ways? Throw those down in the comment section below. Now you can always catch me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Darren Jakes. Also, a nice little side here. I did a podcast today over on the Enchantment of Eternity channel. We got to talk about Black Sails, which just ended its final season the other night. So it was a fun discussion. We got to kind of dive into things a bit more, relive this show that we loved so much. If you guys haven't seen it, it is a tremendous, tremendous show. Well written, well shot, well acted. One of the best shows on TV in quite some time. So you should really check that out. And if you know all about it, you can check out the Enchantment of Eternity podcast and see our discussion of it. In fact, I will throw a link up to that right here. And then if you want to subscribe and you are not a subscriber, you can do that by hitting me in the face right here. That little picture there will make you a subscriber, and then you won't miss any of these reviews. So I'm going to call it quits for the night. I am D, and I'm out of here. Take it easy. Bye-bye.